Hello, welcome to another video, to this video blog that I've got going on for university project. Today I want to talk about my recent live stream that I did with my father, Andrew Griffith. Now, in all, I think this live stream was much better than the last live stream I did with Nathan Warnes. As in terms of sound, lighting, camera work, and the social media marketing side. So, to start off with, the camera work. Now, from very early on, I understood that things needed to be changed with regards to the camera work and how I use the cameras, placement. So, before the Nathan Warnes live stream, I didn't know much about cameras, didn't know how to use them. Thankfully, we had a lesson on camera work the week after that live stream as a part of my music video production, and everything I learned from that transferred into this one, and thankfully I knew what to do this time now. I knew what temperature control is, what the exposure, the ISO, iris size, they all work in together to sort of change the look of the camera. You've got the shutter speed as well, which can affect things. Especially in low light, you want to have a lower shutter speed, but then that could have a bit of lag, which I found out with this live stream, but in all, I think it was much better. I didn't have to do anything drastic with the cameras. I just needed to change one or two little settings I found, just the temperature control and the exposure, and that was it. They were all matched. And as well, I decided to go for a static camera as opposed to a shaky cam. And with that static camera, now and again I'll get a bit of movement. I could have had a lot more movement. That was one of the comments that I had from Adam Shaler. About what I could improve upon this this live stream. So that would be something that I could do for next time. Now the camera placements was another thing. I actually kept the DSLR camera where it was in comparison to the last time. All I did was move around the set a little bit, so it might look a bit different, but it was in exactly the place. I moved around the handheld camera, what was the handheld camera now, onto a tripod, and I now and again changed the position of that, but it'd be static, it won't move about, and that's what gave a little bit of movement, a bit of changing. The hand camera, the one that was looking at the hands, I actually changed that from a webcam to a little camcorder, and that in a lot of ways actually changed a lot of things. I found out from talking to Adam Shaler that a bigger sensor means more light can come in, therefore more sensitive, therefore you can have you have a better image quality in lower light, and with a webcam you don't have a big of a sensor, so therefore it looks a lot darker in low light situations. Of course, it is going to be dark in the room, but it looks a lot darker when you see the image. If you don't change any of the exposure settings, and by changing the exposure settings, such as like the shutter speed, it'll make things look a lot blurrier and laggier, which is not what you want on a project like this. You want it tight, flowing with the music. Hands, they. But instead of having direct upshot, looking bird's eye down at the piano, instead of one of those, I decided, you know what, I'm going to replace the hand camera from a webcam to that camera that was up there. So I moved that one that was up there onto the hands, therefore you can see the hands better. But then not only that, I'd have a camera inside the piano itself, so you can actually see the hammers going up and down, and you can see all the technical little things that are going on within the piano, which I find quite interesting and quite amusing to look at when somebody's playing the piano. And as well, I decided with the one of the webcams that I used for an establishing shot, instead of having that just showing everything without all the equipment. In fact, I'd like to bring people out of the scene just a little bit when Andrew was talking, my father was talking to the cameras. So then it sort of gave you a sort of little insight of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, it wasn't like a showing everything, it's just showing some of the cameras that were on set and some of the lighting. So it sort of brought you out of the moment when he's speaking to you. So it's almost like it doesn't get as awkward then. So he's not just like staring off in the camera. You can see him look at the camera, but it's off angle. He's not looking at you directly. Now and again, I'd actually switch to see what he's looking at. He can directly talk to you, and then it's got a bit of... So it doesn't make it as awkward. Another thing I'd like to talk about is the lighting. Now, what I found out is that the more lights you have is the better. More shadows you create. Not the more shadows you create, but the more meaningful shadows you create, creates a better looking image. It doesn't look as flat, because the problem is, last time I didn't understand how lighting works. I understood that you can make light and you can light up a set, but I didn't understand how you can get something to look cinematic or look moody or look more informal or formal, say now, depending on how you light a subject. For this I wanted to go for a little bit more cinematic-y sort of look. So the problem I had with last time was that I just filled the room with lights and hoped for the best, when in fact I needed to create shadows. I tried to eliminate shadows. That was the problem. I saw a shadow there, right, get rid of it. The problem with that is that it actually made set look flat. It made the person look flat. You had no dimension. You had nothing separating the person who's playing the piano with the background. It's sort of merged into one, because you've got the skin tones as well, which are very similar to the back panels of the last time. So this time I decided to try and get some shadows on some parts of his face. Obviously, when he's playing piano, you only see a side of his face. I wanted to get a bit of shadowing underneath here, which didn't work out quite right. It didn't look the way that I wanted it to, but at least the lighting improved. And in fact, there could have been things that I could have done better with the lighting with this one, but in all, it's a much better improvement in comparison to the last time. The next one I should be doing should be with an acoustic guy. I don't know who I've got for that yet. More on that in the future. But at least with that then I've got the subject looking straight, and therefore I can actually light the subject the way that I've been taught, with the key light and the soft light and the rim light. 3-point, that's all you need for this. I wouldn't mind having a few tones, changing out like this light here, having a bit of pink in, maybe a bit of blue somewhere, just to give it a bit more finesse or something a bit different that I could bring along. So with regards to the sound, I didn't do much to the mix, to be honest. I actually kept the mix the same as the last time, other than one or two little tweaks. I just brought up the bottom end on the piano just to give it a bit more roundness and a bit more edge on the top end as well, because it's the only instrument I want to fill up the frequency spectrum other than what you hear in the vocals on. So, and I also tweaked the vocals as well, very different vocal sound. Father's got more of a nasally sort of sound, whereas Nathan sounds a bit more like the guy off Coldplay, say. So I mixed them two very differently. Just a bit of tweaks, but it does sound very different when you put them. And as well, I added reverb and delay. That was the major difference I did, even though there weren't many differences. Problems with that was that when he's speaking, I had delay and reverb, and to be honest, it would sound better if it didn't have as much delay and reverb while the person is speaking, the subject is speaking, so that it doesn't sound weird, but obviously when they're singing, then you could bring it back in. So I might create a macro on the keyboard, just hit one button, turns off the reverb and delay, and when you start singing, hit it again, it'll just fade it back in, so it doesn't sound like a hard cut or unnatural. Naturally. The last point I want to get at is the social media and marketing. To be honest, not much different this time again. The only difference is that I've got more of a following this time because of the live streams that I've been doing and the hype that I've been creating. So following from the last one, more people now are watching this one because they're interested. They're purely interested in to see what's happening. You know? I had a few friends hit me up asking, let me know when it's happening, DM me when it's happening and I can watch it. So I messaged them and I had an extra few followers. Last time I had 6 people watching. Now this time I've got 13 people watching consistently now. I had a few people watching and the numbers fluctuated, but it'd stay around 6 last time. This time it stayed around 13, which to be honest is a very good point for me, because then that means it's 13 people watching this idea. I never thought I'd think of that. Of course, social media or marketing is one thing. The more likes, who cares? But then when you get people actually interested and going out of their own way to watch this idea, then that's something which I'm quite happy and proud to see. And in fact, now I've seen that, it sort of gives me a bit more of a encouragement to actually market this a lot more now. By maybe using the Instagram stories feature to try and ease people, or try and tease people into, entice them into watching little snippets. I might actually upload some of the snippets of the live stream onto Instagram as well, so that people can actually get a feel of what's going on in the live stream for the next time when they see it. So from speaking to friends and speaking to people like Adam Shayler, actually speaking to Andrew, my father, and speaking to Nathan as well, who was on the last one, and many other people, I got an understanding of what I could do differently to improve this concept. Now, I asked my father, Andrew Griffiths, about what he thought of it. He's not very much a visual guy. He's a producer himself. And he actually said maybe a bit more reverb on the vocals, a bit less delay, have a quicker delay, maybe a bit of a slap delay rather than a typical echo delay, to give it more authenticity, more realism, and then to take it out then when he's speaking. As I've said on one of my previous points, one of the other comments I had from Adam Shayler, I had 4 major comments. One of them was, get rid of the lighting underneath the jawline. It doesn't look that flattering. I found out that myself. He bounced it off as well. So yeah, so that's one thing to improve. Maybe spend a bit more time on lighting on the next one. Another thing that within the piano, the webcam looked a bit yellow, and to be honest, that was undesirable. I didn't want to have a yellow look. I seen that, I didn't know how to fix it, therefore I just left it. Hope nothing of it, but obviously picked it out, and that's one thing, if I was to use this setup another time now, was to do so, to get rid of the yellowy look. Another thing is with regards to the static cameras. Now all the cameras were static and only one of them I moved. He recommended just getting a little bit of tiny bit of movement on one of the cameras. A bit more movement, in fact. So maybe just a bit of panning now and again, have a bit of zooming in, easing into a shot. Not much movement as in terms of 3D space, but just axis and zooming, just a bit of that. A bit of realism. Another thing that I could have improved upon was the establishing camera. Looked a bit flat. Now, of course, I was using a webcam. Like I said, it's really hard to get a good image off a webcam. So I can understand that comment. And to be honest, I will be taking that on board as well. It's going to be hard to sort out the webcams. And for that reason, I'm going to be getting proper broadcast equipment, thankfully, for the next live stream. More updates on that as well. So I think that's all for today. I will be definitely having more updates with regards to all of this now. Yeah, that's all I have to say.